In cybersecurity, we have white hat hackers who get into the vulnerabilities, the security flaws of the system and tell you how to repair it. Or there are black hat hackers that use those flaws for personal gain and benefits. We're white hat civic hackers, meaning that we're not exploiting those loopholes in democracy for personal gain. Rather, we're about building new tools in democracy that can better reflect the collective will and rough consensus of the entire citizen and entire society. At any given time, there's like 100 small experiments running all across Taiwan. Whenever there is a real good idea accepted by the society emerging out of the sandbox, we then agree within a year to adopt their idea as our new regulation. In all the 12 ministries related to social innovation, each minister have 2 social innovators who are always under 35 years old that lead the direction for that particular ministry. We call them reverse mentors because, in a sense, they're mentoring the ministers and educating them whether their policies are having a positive effect on all of population. On the other hand, there is in a reverse because they were not trained in public policy. Have a good bidirectional or even omnidirectional listening experience like that through reverse mentorship. I think it's really, really important if people want to make sure that all the citizens benefit rather than just a few people who have a good connection to the ministries. My first foray into the World Web is actually campaigning for the first presidential election in Taiwan. That was in 1996. And so basically, direct election for the president and the World Web's mass adoption is in the same year. I would say that in Taiwan, people who innovate on technology and people who innovate on bureaucracy are the same people. That gives a civic spirit so that people feel that we own democracy because it is relatively new to us and it's just like 30 years old. So I think this drive of inspiration and innovation is what led Taiwan to be one of the most transparent and also the most progressive country in the whole of Asia. There's 2 key lessons. The first is that the government should trust citizens without requiring the citizen to trust back. The other lesson I would like to share is that we're always bringing technology to people rather than asking people to come to technology. Any place in Taiwan, more than 98% of our territory, you have 10 megabits per second at 15 euros, unlimited connections. And if you don't, it's my fault. And through this way, people are getting more included into the democratic process instead of just forcing the people to speak the language of bureaucracy or maybe traveling to Taipei to deliver maybe 5 minutes of speech in a public hearing. Back in 2016, people are talking about the weaponization of social media. Everywhere around the world, including certain elections in 2016, people discovered that it is actually possible to use precision targeting and the same technologies that people develop for advertisement purposes, for political campaigning. Even more worrying, it can spread intentional, harmful information to parts of the electorate so that the citizens who are affected with such disinformation will stop to recognize other political ideas as valid or even other groups as people. It will drive people to be much more polarized and more violent toward each other so that it becomes an anti-social media and not a social media. For the past couple years, what we've been doing is researching vaccines and inoculations against such a toxic virus of the mind. So we develop it through humor, through rapid responses, through collaborative journalism and fact-checking and so on. By our past presidential election, we see that less than 60 minutes after each harmful disinformation gets spread, instead of going to censorship or takedown or encroaching on the media platform, we do none of these things. But the citizens organize themselves to put out clarifications in real time, attaching it to the public notice, attributing the sources of such interferences, and the ministries in charge all roll out hilarious, funny, mimetic pictures within an hour for people to get into a more humorous mindset, which is a natural inoculation against hate. Just recently, early February this year, in Taiwan, there's a massive speculation on the price of surgical masks. And we're not alone. Everywhere in East Asia, from Hong Kong to Singapore to Japan, there is a lot of this social norm where people because they don't want to infect their community, puts on surgical mask just on the slightest flu-like symptom. And so it's a different social norm compared to European cities, but it is true in the Asian society. And so in Taiwan, there's a lot of uncertainty and doubt about the accessibility of the surgical mask. So within 48 hours, our team of National Health Insurance designed, and I personally coded, a mask map. So everybody can see where the nearby pharmacies are, where the stock level is, and refresh every 30 seconds so that you can go into a pharmacy, present your NHI card, and get a pair of masks just immediately. You trust the pharmacist more because you know that they're tapping into the right shared open data pool. The pharmacist trust the government more because they know that the distribution is fair and equal. The government trusts the citizens more because then there's no way to speculate if you know that there's going to be more masks to supply at lower prices as the days goes on. So that's just one of the recent examples of how a social fear can be mitigated through radical transparency and open data.